following announcement has been paid for by the Celtic World Order.
Hello there, good afternoon, welcome back to Celtic World Order podcast. As always, I'm Steve O'Matt and it's a warm welcome to every single one of you for another wee chat about all things Celtic. As you can see, it's pretty much a full screen together. There's the usual reprobate to the top left, or your right, whatever it is you're watching at home. Paddy Boy, the OG, and below us is an absolute legend. It's long overdue. It's the Punk Duck Warlord, the wise man of Celtic podcasting, of Bhoys fame. It is Liam Goodnow. How you doing, mate? It's been ages since you've been on here, but love to see it.
Aye, early one for me, bright and breezy, still nice and sleazy, right? Aye, it's been a long time. Thanks for the t-shirt, appreciate that.
Oh, love it. And you know, as we say, Speed obviously turned 1 year as a podcast at the end of March there. And little known fact was that you were actually one of the first backers, if you will, in terms of helping get this wee thing up and off the ground, in terms of using your fantastic graphical design to put together logos and coming on and lending your words of wisdom to us in the early stages of the show. So we really do appreciate your constant support, mate. You are indeed a man of great moral fibre and an upstanding top man.
Oh, mate. Actually, if you could write that down, I maybe can take that to the bank. But thanks, man. I appreciate you having me on, you and Paddy and that as well. And I think it's brilliant that people... I listen to a load of Celtic podcasts and all that. And so to get invited on another one, that's great. And when Russell was starting his group as well, The Bus, I wanted to reach out and help him with some graphics and that as well. And that's what I think is always a Celtic fans helping Celtic fans, right? I mean... I enjoy listening to all these. I listen to you regular and also appreciate your involvement in the chat when I'm on and when I'm on the bus as well. So, thanks to everybody out there that crosses their platforms and that doesn't know me. How you doing?
Go and check out, as he says, Friday Feeling. He's on there, the Bhoys Bus. Check him out. Usually on with the bold filming and another top guy as well.
Legend.
There's plenty of podcasts out there, as he says. Go and check it out. We'll say that all day long on here. Just make sure you come back here and you listen to us at times. There you go. Speaking of supporting the community, the original member 420 somewhere has dished out 5 CWO memberships. So you are indeed incredibly lucky if you get them. And thank you very much, 420, for that. So before we kick on, plenty to talk about. It's maybe just going to be a wee bit philosophical. Like there's a couple of... I don't know, there's a wee spanner in the works, it seems, in the mentality of the team. The form's a bit patchy. Why? What's going on with it? We'll talk about it. We'll look at that game. And, of course, we'll talk about honest mistakes maybe starting to get eradicated because an absolutely useless official is no longer a useless official. He's now unemployed. Happy days. We'll cover that. But before we do, the wee housekeep, you know the score. If you like what you're seeing here, give it a thumbs up. Hit the subscribe. Costs you nothing. Helps grow the community. If you want to go one mental, share it out there, get more people in here, and of course, the multiple. You know by now, Spotify, TikTok, X, that's all there. Plenty of ways to connect with the channel. So, guys, let's get down to business now. As it says on the tagline there, it's treble chasers. That's what Celtic are. We are still sitting pretty at the top of the league. We have a semi-final coming up, and we're in touching distance, of course, both of the league and all things even going well, getting a treble in the bag. However, it would be complete and utter false economy. It'd be remiss if we sat here and said that the pathway to that league and potential treble has been anything but smooth. It's been patchy, let's be honest. And so I think St.Johnstone at the weekend was just the culmination of the frustrating form that we've been seeing recently. We heard the manager. He didn't sound happy at all. But the headlines are 14 points dropped since that, and that includes defeat 3-0 to Rangers. And since then, that's a 42 available. Now, I know that that's not a lot, 4 defeats and a draw. Defeats twice to Rangers. That in itself is not nice, no matter what way you want to dice that up. Hibs, you can maybe understand. Hibs in great form. St. Johnstone fighting for their lives. And, of course, a draw against the Dundee that have been great value for money. So when I say it like that, it doesn't sound like it's completely unacceptable. But when you flip that over, and you look at the good fortune, it is good fortune that we've had, that Rangers have been dross, because they've dropped 13 points as well during that time. But in an alternative universe, this could be tricky. Liam, straight out the cannon, what's going on here? Because The manager keeps talking about character, mentality, complacency. What's the cause here, mate?
Well, I think it depends who you're pointing at, because I see a lot of the things in Rodgers, and I've believed for a long time, comfort is the biggest thing that will kill you in a football team. When you get too comfortable with your position or your standing or wherever it is, you tend to take shortcuts. And the manager's job is to motivate players so that you get the best performance, the best mindset you possibly can. And I don't know, like, just my observation, there's plenty of reasons. I think for me, I think it's the numbers of the players being far too comfortable playing for Celtic and maybe not really understanding what it really means. I think as a fan base, we all feel that everybody's got that same emotional input as what we have.
Yeah.
And, like I look at Alistair Johnson. When he plays for Canada, he plays with a lot more passion. I saw more passion in the last two games against USA than I did see him playing for Celtic. So you can see that, you can draw those conclusions. When I see him in the media and all that, a lot of people like the way he talks. He's confident and that. But watch any NHL hockey game; they all get the same training. They all talk exactly like that. He's just parroting what he saw hockey players saying on interviews, his entire time growing up, give it 100%, and that sort of stuff. And I think there's a motivational problem in this team that's coming through comfort. I think we might be being overcoached a bit as well.
Potentially, that's a good point, actually.
You can see that in some players as well. It's like, I used to work as a director, and when you're directing talent, sometimes you can over-direct them. You're looking for perfection so much and giving them, like tasks to do and all that, and you want them to do it absolutely perfect. So you end up over-directing them till you lose any sense of the form of what they were supposed to be doing. And especially with young people, which football players are, I think, just look at Jota. Jota's in the last 5 games, you've just seen the flair of Jota just slowly dissipate, where now he's following patterns and all that because, I don't know, I guess, that everybody's trying to get their imprint on something that was working well.
Do you think that, with that, and it's a good point that you make there, I actually, to be fair, never really thought of that. Obviously, we'll always look at displays and we'll say, yep, the guys on the pitch are ultimately that have to deliver, but the manager needs to take account of that. Now, we saw that after the St. Johnstone. The manager it was quite a stark and honest interview that he gave. The first thing he was asked about was the result. Were you surprised? And he basically says, no, I wasn't surprised, which in itself is an opening gambit. It's concerning to hear that the manager thinks, that doesn't surprise me anymore. I expect that. He then done a wee bit of sort of soul searching, didn't he? Where he was sort of saying to himself, like, maybe I need to look at myself, the way I'm applying things. Am I giving too much information? Am I doing this and that? Exactly what you're saying. The sort of micromanaging of it. Now, we always know that Brendan Rodgers is very much a method manager, if you want to call it that. Meticulous. He has his systems, he has his ways. And I'm not comparing, I know it's two different things, but for all the flaws at Ange, where it didn't have it, it seemed as if it was, I know it sounds a bit sort of airy-fairy and sort of touchy-feely. It was more a passion-based game. It was about expressing yourself and getting out and maybe taking chances and just playing, nice, beautiful, traditional, fast-flowing football. We'll worry about the details, which in itself was a major flaw, but we're almost a wee bit of a flip side now, where it's at times feels a wee bit paint by numbers. I said this throughout the course of the season. I'll obviously bring myself in, Paddy. I just want to follow up on what Liam said there. Mid-season, we turned around and says, Rodgers adapted. He learned to adapt for Europe because he knew that you couldn't trap up. You couldn't do the same thing against every single team. Football's not one size fits all. But it seems that we do that in the domestic game in Scotland. See, when you've got teams like St. Johnstone fighting for their lives, and to be fair, they were good value for money, but you know what you're going to get. Low blocks, they're going to sit in, they're going to try and frustrate. Is that maybe the time to tear up the sort of script of, you'll be there, this is how we press, this is how we move, and just say, you literally are better footballers, you are more talented, go and undo them by flair.
Me? Or Liam?
I'll let Liam take that in because he was the one that brought that up.
Yeah.
Well, I thought, first of all, I thought St. Johnstone looked good against us, but they seemed to adapt their game to play us. And then you're right, it was really frustrating because we didn't do anything within that game to adapt how we played. Mm-hmm. And I thought Rodgers looked like he was struggling as a coach in that game because I didn't agree with any of his decisions of how he managed that game. Yeah. I thought his substitutions were wrong. I think taking off Maeda and Jota so early, that didn't make any sense to me. And it's just like, yeah, I think I don't know what it is. I think he's trying to overcoach this team. I think the overthinking of the fact of dropping Nawrocki for Trusty.
Bizarre.
Because he defended that by saying, well, it was because he was left-footed or that. And I don't know if that's the case. But even if it is, it's like, okay, well, that shouldn't make any difference. And again, you said you're fighting with a team that's hungry as well. The motivation didn't seem to be there. They didn't have that, must-win attitude. I mean, all the reasons were there to win that game. If we'd have won that game, that means we celebrate and we win against Kilmarnock. You get to celebrate with the season ticket holders, the guys that pay their money every year to go to Celtic games, and they would get to be part of that party and bring their wains and their family, and you see the players in the pitch walking around. Those are brilliant moments, and that should have been the biggest motivation for them to play. That should have been them trying to, just run that extra yard, make the extra tackle. Yeah, I just thought we were so passive in that game that it just, everybody looked like they was just stricken by comfort,
Yeah, Paddy, I mean, what do you think? We've sat here and scratched our heads, and as you well know, and Liam will know as well from commenting on it elsewhere on the bus, you're kind of damned if you do and damned if you don't when it comes to being ourselves and, doing one of these platforms and talking about the game, because you'll always be drawn to early season form, the amount of trophies we've won over the seasons, the current position we find ourselves in, going for a treble, blah, blah, blah. I get it. I do get it. There's worse scenarios to be in. But as I says, you've got to recognise it there. 14 points dropped since January. You're fortunate that your rivals have dropped 13 because the reality is they took 6 off you. And again, I know they're not good. They're crap, to be honest. They're up and down. But it does feel like you're getting away with one. Now, I look through it and there's some really good results in there. 6-0 home to Dundee, 5-1 home to Aberdeen, 5-2 away to St Mirren. There is some good performances in there. But some of these results feel like they are covering over the cracks. Now, what is it? Are you on board with what Liam's saying? Is it complacency? Is it the manager? Is it a cycle thing? And I've seen a lot of people as well creeping in and saying that, and listen, I don't think this is the case. I certainly hope it's not. But look at Rodgers and his career and his time at various clubs. Usually that end of second season into third season malaise where the form starts to wear, the magic fades a wee bit. Are we hitting that super early? That's that Brendan Rodgers cycle thing, or is it something completely different, mate? Is it literally just there's guys that maybe don't want to be there?
It could possibly be, mate. When you're talking about complacency and motivation and things like that, you just need to listen to the gaffer across the city, Barry Blackwards. He was out there talking and he's saying, if you lack the motivation to play for a club like either Celtic or Rangers, then you don't deserve to be there. It's as simple as that. These players are there. They're there to be professionals and do their job at the end of the day. And I think they're good enough to beat anybody in that league. That includes Rangers as well. And to come up against St Johnstone and put in that performance, I thought, out of all of them, I thought Rio Hatate was probably the only one that got pass marks for me, and he was still pretty poor. So on that as well, I mean, you're talking about dropping Nawrocki. I have no idea how he get dropped. I really don't. The guy played really well his last couple of games. I thought he looked solid. I thought going into this game, this was maybe one for him to kind of kick on a little bit. But obviously the managers went with the Austin Trusty, and I thought he was at fault a few times in the game as well. It could be that, like you said, Steve, it's getting to that stage of Brendan Rodgers' tenure where he does have a little lapse. I feel like we're hearing the same thing from him all the time. It's all about mentality. It's all about this. It's all about that. And it's basically the same interview all the time. If Celtic play really well, he comes out and he goes, our mentality was brilliant. If Celtic play poor, he goes, we lacked the mentality there. And you're like, yeah, okay, mate, it's not all about that. It's about what we're doing on the park. We need to get the players up for this. And if you can't get up for a game that you need to win, with 2 games we need to win basically to win this league, if you can't get up for that, then you're in the wrong club. Because as Celtic fans, we demand victory every single week. It doesn't matter who we're playing. We're going into that game against Bayern Munich, demanding a Celtic win, hoping for a Celtic win, and we expect to win every week in the league. So if you can't live with that expectation, then the Celtic jersey's too heavy for you.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. With Paddy's saying there, and the manager, in that way where he had the post-match interview, he kind of did call out the players. He didn't. He kind of held back a wee bit because he said a phrase and then he goes, it's the collective, it's everybody here. But as Skyman's saying here, there seems to be a lot of people who maybe it is complacency, maybe that's one term for it, maybe it's comfort, as you said as well, maybe it's a lack of competition. I mean, look at these names there, Liam says, Kuhn, Engels, I feel sorry for. He's been a bit of a whipping boy, as we know. Paddy, you've been up and down with him. But when we look at the team, so many guys that we've depended on have really, for me, fallen off the edge of a cliff. Now, what is the reason behind that? Kuhn, 1 point contender for player of the year, at least in club, if not, with the players and the writers and all that kind of stuff, completely looks like he is just regressed back to whatever version of him he was when he first trapped up. But the more concerning thing for me is your stalwarts, your guys that are really, really dependent. You touched on him, Alistair Johnson, and you said when you watched him playing for Canada, there was a completely different energy level and commitment level. You've got Johnson and you've got CCV, who I've just thought has, again, form-wise, really, really dipped. There's many, you could add another 3 or 4 guys into that equation, but since January, since that defeat to Rangers, the form has been so patchy, and it almost feels as if the bad patch has been bookended by those 2 defeats to Rangers. Is it something that's quite as simple as we talk about mentality, where Rangers got the drop on Celtic, and whether we want to admit it or not, or whether they admit it at the time, maybe it has shook their confidence a wee bit. That cloak of invincibility has maybe disappeared a wee bit, where every team's up for the cup now against us.
But that should be part of playing for Celtic. You're always going to be top of the league or the top 2 playing with Celtic. So every team's coming out to play against you. As well as boys that grew up supporting Rangers or Celtic as well. If you want to show Celtic why they didn't sign you, or you want to stick it to Rangers just because you like Celtic. No, I think that. So that's for the Scottish boys. But the motivational aspect to this whole thing is that's up to Rodgers, that's up to the manager. The manager needs to be the one that installs that pride of playing for this club into the players every time they set in the park, and it's up to him to change it. So if that complacency is there and he's saying it, well, he's the one that's starting Trusty. He's the one that's that never takes CCV off. He could definitely use a rest. I know he'll take him off. He's got an injury or that, but his form's been terrible. I mean, his nickname's the Fridge because he was so cool. But look at the fucking shape of him right now. It's like he's turning into the Fridge.
I also want him. Why are they big American fridges?
I know. Pull up, man. But he's he just doesn't look anywhere near himself. And for someone like that who's not vocal, that I know it just sort of devalues the leadership. And when Callum's not there, as I've seen before, there was nobody there that was vocal or wanted to be a leader. And that includes, Alistair Johnson, that a lot of people have sort of pinned it, could be the next Celtic captain and all that. I don't see it. I don't see those leadership qualities. I don't think he has that to stand up, because it went missing against Rangers. When's the last time you've seen him play Rangers aggressively as what he did in his first 2 games? The first 2 games Alistair Johnston played against Rangers, he was they were targeting him for some things, but he was going in hard, everything. So he's either overcoached right now to dial back that aggression and not do this or that, and that might be affecting his game, or he's just so comfortable playing for Celtic right now that, you know what, his mind's on the big Canada US game that was, 3 days later, then so Celtic wasn't his priority. But I don't know. I mean, that's all just speculation, right? It looks like that to me.
I mean, how do we fix that though? Obviously, as people are saying, this is what happens if you get zero competition. Now, the reality is, we know that Tony Ralston's an ample deputy at a domestic level. He's quite clearly not the answer. No disrespect to him, he isn't. When we look at what we could be getting next season, where it's more than likely going to be Jeffrey Schlupp will stick about. Your pal, as you know, Taylor Liam is off. He's going to be going. He got on the pitch. He had to get on the pitch because I thought, again, Schlupp was another guy who was pretty poor in that game. But you look at there, you're going to have Schlupp, you're going to have Tierney. That's decent depth. That's decent like for like quality. We need to bring that over. In terms of the middle 3, the sort of centre half position, or 4, you've got, Narotsky, who I thought for the brief showings that we got out of him was hard done by. As you say, it's confusing decision to get dropped there. You've got Scales, again, not going to level you up, but proven to be more than capable of a certain standard. And then you've got Carter Vickers and Trusty. So there is competition there. So I just can't understand why there's such a severe drop-off there. Trusty, you can always give that wee bit of sort of allowances to, similar in the way that you could give that to maybe a McCowan or Ida or, Engels' first season and all that, bedding themselves in. So after the pre-season, then start to be a bit more harsh in your judgment, if you want to use that term. But other positions, I can see that. Johnson, he is getting a bit of a free ride. The big one that's really, really concerning me, and that, as you say, Paddy, I'll come to you on it. Hatate, Brown Warrior saying there, Hatate's wanting a move in the summer and he looks up and down. I agree with you. I thought that he was probably our best midfielder, and that's saying something in that game against St.Johnstone. It was, I know it doesn't make sense, a phrase, but I just like saying it. He was distinctly average. He got himself about the pitch. He did more than everybody else. He had one where he smashed the post and he had an absolute honker, but he should have buried it and I think took some poor child's face off deep in the stand. But so guys like him, it's clear he probably does want to move. We swayed this the last time we were on about this whole body language pattern where he came off and folding arms up. Looks like a guy to me he's just swirling his own mind, doesn't necessarily know what he wants. Kuhn, for me, I can't unpick the guy. I cannot. I'm greatly appreciative of some of the great goals and performances in the early part of the season, but by God, man, you're playing for Celtic and he looks constantly miserable. And maybe he bought into that whole, the Germany manager's looking at you, and I don't know. I just think that he, for me, and I didn't see it coming, looks like a guy who is also cashing in his chips. You suggested that maybe with the Jota Love coming back, that maybe knocked his nose out of joint a wee bit. But again, look, you're a professional footballer, you're a starter for Celtic. Have you any concerns over particular players, Paddy, in this team?
Listen, everybody isn't going to play brilliant every single week, and we know that, we understand that. But it's up to the other players round about them to notice when somebody's head's down or their head's turned or whatever, and up their game to compensate. And I think we've got the talent to do that. Like you said, Steve, you looked at Kuhn at the start of the season. Kuhn was absolutely incredible. At the start of this season, he was fantastic. He was the player, he was nailed on player of the year. It really was. There wasn't anybody touching him, in my opinion. You were looking at him going, oh my God, this guy's incredible. What a difference. Pre-season, all the way through, until maybe midway through the season. And I think then, could it be complacency? Could it be that he thought, this position's nailed on, or his head's been turned, or his nose has been knocked out of joint, or when Liam says there about Alistair Johnson as well, with the overtraining, the kind of being told to basically do something that's not part of your game. I like the idea of kind of how Martin O'Neill used to do it. Martin O'Neill had the kind of way that he would let the players do what they were good at. He understood the players. I mean, did he again spoke to us? Did he? He said that when Martin was there.
That was his exact wording, yeah. He said there was no level of man management. We had a formation, we had a game plan, and it was, I trust you guys, your sort of judgment and knowledge and skill surpasses what I've got, go and do it. Yeah,
so that would be my way of managing, and I like that idea, because let's face it, these are professional footballers. These are guys supposed to be at the top of their game, basically, playing for one of the best clubs in the world, in my opinion. So there shouldn't be any motivational things there. There shouldn't be anything. There shouldn't be any issues there. But unfortunately, there seems to be. Nicholas Kuhn, like you say, his head seems to not be in the game. Hatate, we know he has one good game, 5 shite games. It's just what he does. Brown Warrior said as well earlier on, I noticed it about his contributions, like 10 goal contributions or something. It's poor for someone in his position when we know exactly what he can do. I think he tries the hard thing all the time. But that's just the type of player he is, and I like that. That's one of the things that I do like about him. Mm-hmm. I just think we need to be levelling up. We need to get the players in there, and the players that we do have need to know what it means. We need Callum in there. We need James Forrest in there. We need these guys to be telling them in the dressing room what it actually means to play for Celtic. It's the lack of leadership on the pitch now. Like, we've lost Kasper Schmeichels for a few weeks as well, and I think Kasper does bring that element of captaincy to the club. He brings that vision. Do you know what I mean? That experience, and that's something that you really, really need as well.
Yeah, I mean, we're going through the comments here. Some really good points coming in. San Fran's obviously he's covering what we sort of suggested to that. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. You know, how angry, disappointed, or whatever you want to term you upon it can be with a team that's scushing the league and likely get a treble. I do get that. And I know it makes you maybe sound entitled. I hate using the term entitled or whatever, but as Paddy says, we as fans, you just strive for excellence. And I think if you are not addressing and being honest about what we see in front of you, then it's remiss and it's a false economy. In terms of just to sort of move on for this sort of point, how do we tackle this? Obviously, competition's healthy. Do you think additionally the likes of Kieran Tierney, who is been getting game time for Arsenal, to be honest, again, Real Madrid tonight came on, and I think the Arsenal fans are actually quite gutted that they're losing them. And again, a shrewd, very good bit of business for us. Does bringing in somebody like Kieran Tierney back to the club, does that instill a wee bit more of what the manager's looking for? Does it give him reinforcements, if you will, on top of your Cal McGregor? And also seeing another name swirling about, again, just come back to not try to sell him, but should Hatate go, does a guy like Miller at Motherwell, again, I know he's a Celtic man, but he's a Celtic man. He's a bright young talent. The bringing in these guys and instilling a bit of sort of homegrown DNA to the side that's awash with foreign talent, does that help turn the tide a wee bit?
It's funny, I noticed for the first time, it was the game before St.Johnstone. It was the first time I think we had a Celtic squad that didn't have a Scottish player on it. I said that to one of the guys in the pub I was watching the game with. We don't have a single Scottish player on the park now. And I think it was when McGregor went off and yeah, I think there's a lot to do about the identity of a team where you have to keep it. We were lucky to be some brilliant figures like Tommy Burns and that was there. When you listen to that older group of players, the guys like, even De Canhos and Van Hooijdonks and, Tommy Burns was there to sort of instill that Celtic pride. And I don't think we have any of that now. You can say players like James Forrest and McGregor and that, but I don't know. I think you need that older. We need more of those somebody on. Even if you look at our board, there doesn't seem to be a lot of Celtic pride there. They say they're fans and all that, but they're business fans.
It's very much PLC, isn't it?
Yeah, and they come across that way because of the fact that they don't connect with the fans and they don't have that connection. And that's what we're talking about. How do you connect the new players with a club so that complacency doesn't figure in? And I think they should have some of the older players coming back. No guys like the Lions and all that. They just let them and watch the game and give them the comfort. They're the ones that deserve it now.
Yeah.
But bring in some players I think that's where Barry Ferguson, we slag him all the time, we brokey.
Yeah. Well,
but,
can I just before you go on, because I kind of know where you're maybe going with this. I remember a conversation, Liam, that you and I had, a good couple of months ago. And we were talking about when we were cruising and Rangers were in the mire. And one thing you did say was that was a side who had lost their identity. I'm not talking about staunchness and all that kind of crap. The Scottish identity. You'd said that. That was your exact wording. They'd lost their Scottish identity. They were just awash with foreign talent, and there was no one. The British players were just mercenaries for down south. They were Englishmen that had no skin in the game whatsoever. Now, I know that blood snort and all that kind of stuff only takes you to so far, but I really buy into it. And I think I get what you're sort of maybe getting on to with the Barry Ferguson thing now.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that we need to break. We've had people like Neil Lennon and that in the club who've been brilliant, and he had his time and all that. And then when it was time to move on, he should have, but he didn't, But I think we need to look at bringing. I think if you look at bringing back Tierney, Napoli's got a bigger Scottish identity than we do right now. Especially if Lewis Ferguson ends up there. Yeah, we need to start looking at bringing in Scottish players that are going to be there. They can raise the game of the other players. I know we brought in McCowan and his times where he's looked good. I don't know if Rodgers might be the problem. Rodgers might be the one that has that. We all think he's got this big built-in framework, that he's a Celtic fan because he's Northern Ireland, this and that, and and he's told us that. But he also walked away the first chance you can get. So there's always we know what you're saying, but we've also seen you say this before. And I think that could rub off on players and that as well. It's hard to do anything a second time round. And I know he didn't have a lot of the players, especially the foreigners, but the ones that are there right now that are remaining, the Scottish players within the club, the Scott Bains, the McGregors, and the coaching staffs and that as well, that are all there with him. Yeah, that act might just start looking more like an act when you're seeing it every day the second time round, and the same motivational tactics and that sort of thing that just might not work anymore, especially on younger and foreign type players. It's not just the Scottish thing. I mean, I look at a guy like Jota, and Jota always seemed to get it. He seems to play for the crowd. Not to the crowd, for the crowd. And you can see he wants to make things happen. If it wasn't for Maeda this year, I think Rodgers would be under a lot more scrutiny.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, Paddy. See on the Rodgers thing, and again, we're not shooting the manager. It's not a lynching here. We're just broadly speaking. We're trying to unpick his words where he says maybe it's the players, maybe it's complacency, maybe I need to take a look at myself. So there is a bit of soul searching there. The reality is, we are cruising the league, we are, but it's literally this season's been a game of two halves, quite literally. That start period up to December, bomb-proof. I was sitting here with you talking and saying this could be an invincible season with a shocker against Rangers, which admittedly we should have maybe seen the post because of the final, which says we'll never be that bad again, by God we were. Then of course we were never going to be that bad again, and it happened again. So these are just wee shots across the brow. They're there to remember you and say, look, we slap in the face and say it's not perfect. There's still always work to do, and it's a continual effort. It's not just a bedding in. We are what we are. You can't touch us, and everything will fall into place. So you're getting these wee warning shots. The manager, I agree, first early start of the season, he sounded like a guy that was just towing the party line. Then there was that groundswell. He turned everybody over. Hey, it was back to being, heard us calling in the night, you know what I mean? He went for the ratometer, being the rat right up to that. So, and it's been swaying back forward. They invested a lot. He looked at a guy that was loving a second lease of life at the club, really, really appreciating what he had. Then we get to the windows. Yeah, he supported. Could we have got more? Probably. Same with January. I want a striker. Doesn't get one. I do have concerns here just with that, as I say, is that Brendan Rodgers pattern where you get that malaise. How much do we need to do work-wise to reinstill the quality and the belief and basically return to what we expect and what we want to see, not just for the players and the fans, but for the manager? Do you think, does this summer start to feel a bit make or break for you in terms of we've done well in Europe, we want to improve on that, we could well be sitting with a treble, you need to give the manager something, it keeps him invested and it keeps the evolution of the side going?
The thing is, like, Celtic haven't been at their best. We're still looking at a treble. We're looking extremely good for a treble. We're 2 games away from winning the league. We're 2 games away from winning the cup as well. We've already got one in the bag. And we are sitting here talking like it's a bad season. Let's be honest, it is a good season.
It's a great season.
We're doing incredible. We're doing absolutely fantastic. And that's the thing. It's that expectancy from the fans now. If you are the Celtic board and you go, right, we've got a squad there, we've just won the treble pretty easily, in my opinion. We've just won it pretty easily. We got to the latter stages of the Champions League, only to lose to Bayern Munich to a late goal. And you're looking at it from a board's point of view going, do we need to invest a lot? Do we need to put a lot into that team? The board will probably tell you no. But as Celtic fans, we demand and we hope that we're going to get that. And in my opinion, I don't think the board and I don't think Brendan necessarily will be going out there and pushing to bring in a lot more players. I think there's a few positions that we have to bring in. And I think they'll be the ones, unless we lose somebody, like you said, obviously it looks like maybe Hatate might be leaving. A lot of people saying maybe Kuhn looks as if he could be out the door. Obviously Greg Taylor's away, we know that, but we've got that position covered. So other than anyone leaving, we do know that we have to strengthen other positions. I would expect us to get a striker in. I know we've said that Daizen Maeda is going to be probably the out-and-out striker that we're looking for, and we'll bring in a winger at some point. But I don't think we'll go over and above what we've done previously. I don't think there will be... I don't want to use the word ambition for the club, but I don't think there will be... I don't even know how to sum it up, basically. Do you know what I mean? I don't think the club will show that ambition to push and to put the final nails into the coffin of the club for govern and to make us progress a wee bit in the Champions League a bit more, because I think a few players and we could.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we don't really... I know we take care of your own house and all that stuff, right? And Rangers are in absolute turmoil. They're literally Jekyll and Hyde. You know, they play tomorrow night and they'll either get absolutely tanked or they'll go and they'll keep another decent return, victory or result in Europe. That's the way of them. But again, it comes back to, as we say, we're being a wee bit of slice of fortune. They've been that dire that in terms of some of the results we managed to get away with one, because this is the thing. It is if, buts and maybes. This season has gone our way. It will go our way. I'm confident of that. But the reality is the shit show across the road, it can't go on for as long as it has. And again, whether you believe that this 49ers thing's fact or fiction, the reality is they're going to get some level of a cash injection. Now, I don't think it will be, as I've said time and time again, don't want to flog this dead horse. I don't think it's what they're going to expect it to be. However, they'll get whatever it is. They'll get that new bounce. They'll get that vigour. They'll get all that. It's important for our board to match that or outstrip it, is it not? To show the manager that regardless of what's happening across the road, whether they're trailblazing or whether they're walling, we've just got to crack on and back them. I think for me, that's the only way that we bounce into next season and we don't have a similar to the form that we saw for Rodgers' sides before he left the first time round.
Aye. Well, fans' expectations align with the amount of money they have to pay for season tickets and jerseys and all that. And none of that stuff gets cheaper once you've won the league or once you've points ahead or as long as you're in front of them. So the expectations have to match that. So yeah, when you're running a club and you're charging top value for season tickets and promoting ideas and concepts like we're all in as your marketing tag to attract season tickets and that, then you have to look like you're all in. And our board is far from all in. I would say they're the most all-out board I've ever seen ever. They don't communicate. They don't react with the players. And you're right, in their glass house, that bubble that they live in. Yeah, we're on the potential to win another treble. We're on that, But as you said, we've dropped a lot of points. They've fired their manager for dropping the same amount of points as us.
Yeah.
Since Christmas, and they're still in Europe, and he got the sack. So, we'll say we should have Clement, but yeah, I think Rodgers is part of it now. I don't see him as indistinguishable from the rest of the guys on the board. Where Rodgers, I think, where he could have kept the fans on side and could have avoided a lot of this, was coming out and actually saying, hey, I'm bitterly disappointed that we didn't get a striker. But at least shift some of that thing and not make it look like he was part of it. So if you're just casual about it and it's just like, yeah, well, I'll do my best and all that. Well, when it starts going sideways, when you don't have a plan B because the striker you thought was going to do it for you hasn't done it, or, God forbid, an injury. If said before, if we didn't have Maeda this year, I think he's really kept his season going, and I think he's brought. He brought a spark to the team when we really needed it. When we were going in to play that game against Bayern, I'd never seen, not since the days of Larson and that, have you seen it, he's going to be fit for the game, or he got his suspension lifted as it was. There was so much optimism and hope because he was one of the influential players in the world. And I still think he's not really let down from there, despite the other people around him going, seeming to fall back a bit. And I think that comes with Rodgers. And remember, the board got rid of Ronnie Dyler for winning a double, when he won a double. Yeah. And so that shows those expectations haven't changed. We still want, even though we're winning a treble, you have to win it the Celtic way. And there is an expectations of how our fans want to see football with the league we're in and the amount of money that we generate and how a lot of it's spent on the team now,
Yeah, I think that's for me, and it always has been that if we go on and win a treble again here, our trophy haul over the past 15 years has been ridiculous. I just hope that doesn't eat in. I really do just hope that it doesn't eat in. You got the feeling that when we spent the money on Ida, whether you think that's worked out or not, then the money that we spent on Engels, bringing Trusty 6 million. Again, whether you think these guys are amazing or otherwise is neither here nor there. The fact is they've shown some sort of level of intention, went and spent money. We'll have made an absolute pile off it. Come the end of this season, the finances are going to be absolutely astronomical once again. That's just the thing for me. We need to start hopefully bringing in numerous positions. Now, obviously, we done the show the other day, Paddy, and we spoke about the supposed rumours. There was 3-4 names that were floating about, and it was early, and some of them were revisits and stuff, but that's what I like to see. So hopefully we get something completely different. But I feel that there's definitely a malaise around the club. There's a malaise around the squad and certain players. I think some people are comfortable. Some people have maybe got one foot out the door, and there's a wee bit of sort of disenfranchisedness around there. The manager's the big one for me. I think he's the one who, if you keep him keen, the results happen. If you are rubbing him up the wrong way or things aren't going his way, that's when it becomes problematic. I just hope that this board have got the foresight to push on, give the manager what they want, and basically pull ourselves away. Because how long have we been saying that? Pull ourselves away for Rangers properly. Because, we are miles away in terms of points, but on the pitch and the competition around us, it just doesn't feel like we're pulling away. I know that it maybe makes it a wee bit more exciting when there's points dropping here and there, but it is what it is. It's an issue. Spoke around that enough. I'm sure we'll have plenty to talk about as the season goes on. Still a couple of important games. An interesting thing to finish up is some of the comments we're saying is Celtic haven't lost an important game domestically, bar some dead rubbers. And that's the Rangers ones we're talking about. But I don't I'm still not buying that has ever been a dead rubber. It should never ever have that feel around it. The head-to-heads are always important. You always want to come out with the better of that. We speak at Barry Backpass, and he says, I don't understand what it is about this team. They can get up for Europe, they can get up for Celtic, they can't get up for these run-of-the-mill games. Well, Celtic can't get up for playing Rangers at the moment, it seems, and they're struggling elsewhere. So, Paddy, as we go into the game against Kilmarnock, it's not a dead rubber because we're out of sight. And neither was St.Johnstone, because that was almost a rubber stamp in the league.
Yeah.
Know what I mean?
I think this game that we're going into now against Kelly, this is going to be the one where the Celtic team need to step up. They need to show the fans that, you know what, we are motivated. We are the team that you've been watching this season, basically, other than the throwing away the dead rubbers in the game against St. Johnstone there. I think we'll get a performance. I really do. I think Celtic will come out and put on a performance against Kilmarnock. I think we have to, because if there's any doubts after this Kelly game, then I think the fans will get a wee bit vocal about it. I think they'll obviously start turning a bit and going, right, wait a minute, we've got 2 games we need to win here. Let's get it over the line. You want the League One as early as possible. You really do. So for me, I think this is the game we've got to actually go out there and go for it. Just get the strongest 11 out there and put Kelly to the sword. Put out a message.
How are you feeling about the game against Kelly, Liam? Obviously, as we say, that could have been party time. Oh, yeah, if we win that and Rangers, and listen, they're playing Aberdeen, it's quite possible that we could still be celebrating, but you want to do it in your own terms. You know, that's the reality. You want to do it in your own terms. That is the thing. That's why the game against St. Johnstone was so deflating. You know, you've covered it, Liam, but looking at that game, looking at the manager's comments, we go out, we're at Celtic Park, we're at home, 12:30 kick-off. Hopefully it'll be bright and sunny as it is here. A day it should be feeling like a celebration day or a sort of precursor to one. What does the manager do here? Does he try to prove a point, put the foot down, ring the changes?
I mean, he's not going to change formation or anything like that, because he's not done that in the 2 times he's been here, right? You don't see him changing that thing. He's a very, very stubborn guy when it comes to his process. I think you're going to see everything against Kilmarnock in the first 15 minutes. The first 15 minutes, you'll see what sort of team. We've been very, very vulnerable in that first quarter part of the game that we have. You know, that's when we get scored going out, and you see whether the team has it to go on. You know, whether they're going to respond quickly or the head goes down like it did on Sunday. So yeah, and I think if it doesn't go right in the first 15 minutes, or we get scored in the first 15 minutes, and there doesn't seem to be any change, yeah, you might hear the crowd. I know it sounds like entitlement, but that crowd might get a wee bit sort of like, okay, what are you doing here? You know, you've got to cross the finish line. There's no sense getting us there and then just, you know, taking it casual and all that. The fans don't deserve that. The fans are there with you. You don't play empty stadiums, and the fact that so many people travelled up to McDermott Park to see them in St. John's, you know, against St. Johnstone as well, is something that should be lost. That was like a lot of people support and putting a lot of money into that to go and be part of this team winning another trophy. And how the players can't get up for that, I'll never know. So I'm hoping this week in training and with Rodgers and the people involved in the club, that they're having some serious sort of like mental toughness sessions with this team, because right now we got to get it into their head that this is Celtic and you have to go out there and you've got to not just win, but you got to win by getting the fans on your side and giving them what they deserve, which is, you know, really good football, but played the Celtic way, but with the intent is to win every ball, every game, score every time, you know.
Do you think major changes, Paddy? Because again, I'm looking at the comments, I'm looking at the sort of opinions online of what folk have said, and again, we've mentioned names: Kuhn, Hattati, Engels, Johnson, Carter Vickers. Take your pick. You know, anybody, even drop-offs of Jota. Again, just to bring it in, we laugh. Big Barry back pass, rings of changes. You're off, right? And I always felt that for me sort of belied any of the impact and, sort of good faith that he had amongst his players, right? It can erode that really, really quickly. But the manager we've seen these sort of performances throughout the course of this, January to now. We've seen these sort of dips in performances of various players, but he's kept the faith and done the arm round them kind of thing and not dropped him.
Yeah.
Is it a wee bit of a balancing act whilst there's still a treble to be won? And I know that if you're a betting man, you say it's a stick on, right? St. Johnstone at Hampden, big pitch, all that kind of garbage. You expect us to go and tear them apart, and then it'll be either Hearts or Aberdeen in the final, right? So there's potentially 2 games there, and I know that the league, albeit we're crawling over the line, we will get there, right? But do you think at this sort of key point of the season that it could be a negative to sort of wrap my knuckles of folk and bin them so abruptly?
No, I really don't. I think you have to do that. I think, like we said before, there's a lot of people in there that are showing a lot of complacency because they think the position's theirs, regardless. We spoke about Alistair Johnson being a standout for that. I'm not saying you go and you start Tony Ralston in there against Kelly. I do think Schlupp will be dropped. I think Greg Taylor will probably start ahead of him. I'd like to see Bernardo start a game, depending on how fit he is. Obviously, he looked all right when he's come on and stuff, so I'd like to see Bernardo get a shot in the middle. I think they'll drop Hatate for that. I think you'll probably get Bernardo and Engels in there with Callum McGregor. Front three, out of the front three, it would probably be Kuhn that has to make way for me. Whether you start Yang in there or whether you push Dyson or Jota onto the wing and start Ida in the middle, I don't know.
You've went fully mental now. You're talking about starting Ida. Wow.
I know. Yeah, I mean, I'm just kind of clutching at it here to think how we do it. Do you give James Forrest a start? Do you give somebody like that a chance as well to come back? We know James, when he come on, pretty much looked...
Should have scored, but good save.
Yeah. But it looked positive. He was running, he was pressing. It's the 50-50 balls, and if you think about Celtic teams before, we never lost a 50-50 ball. Now you're watching players, and I'm going to highlight Luke McCowan as well. Every time he went in for a 50-50, he shot himself. He backed out it. And you don't do that. Not when you're wearing a Celtic jersey. I want you to put that player in the stand if it's a 50-50 ball. I want you to go through them. And I've seen that from a lot of players in the Celtic squad, and they're backing out of challenges and they're backing out of these 50-50s, and as soon as you give a team against Celtic an inch, they're going to take it, and they've capitalised on it against us. And I just want to see this, and maybe rotation's the way to get that out of the system. Like you said, Steve, Paulo Bernardo, he's like you said it before, he was like a mountain goat because he gets in about it. He's just small in stature, but he just gets right in about the opposition, and that's what I want to see. I want to see this high press. I want to see high intensity. I want the Celtic players to come out with the Brendan Rodgers mentality and go for it.
I mean, I do agree in terms of looking at the Kilmarnock game. If I was making changes, I would reward the guys that are coming back.
Yeah.
I definitely think to bring in somebody like Bernardo, who's lost so much time in the season, he'll be hungry, and obviously James Forrest. Forget the whole and gets it and knows all that kind of stuff. Just, he looks lively, and you know you're going to get something out of him. And at the expense of guys, as it says, like maybe a Hatate, maybe an Engels, and of course probably Kuhn. If you're asking me, I'd sacrifice him, and those are the kind of changes that I'd made. But one thing's for sure, we definitely need a positive response. I'll be at the game there. I'll be hoping for that, an early kick-off, but a great opportunity to sort of put the St. Johnstone game to bed. Of course, we'll be going up against Kelly. You know what you're going to get against them. It could be a tough affair, but what better team and what better manager to put down in the place and kick back on than against them. So we're looking forward to that. And on that game, obviously the result need to take care of itself, but one thing we'll not need to worry about is honking officials and referees, because the news came out, and I'll speak to you firstly on this, Liam, because I know that we've discussed referees and that before. Alan Muir, I think the term was stepped down, but I think that just means sacked after the debacle of the Hib stuff. I obviously took some of your viewpoints on that from elsewhere watching. It was the only outcome that was ever coming here, wasn't it? 10 years of madness in reviewers and now over.
Aye, you know, when you go back and then you look at some of the decisions that he's made, just unbelievable. Yeah, you get him sacked. I don't know what he's going to do as far as he's obviously not going to be a referee again. Yeah, I think we need to call these out more. And I saw in one of the feeds I had, it said for some of the calls he made against Celtic and Rangers as well. So it's like, make it sound like they wanted him sacked as well. But I don't remember him making any really bad calls, you know, that went
I think
against.
the only one was that cup final one, which, if we're honest,
Yeah.
it's a penalty. But I think other than that, yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, a good riddance to bad rubbish. I mean, it just shows you that there is bias out there, that it does creep up in that. And when it does get into something like officiating and things where judgment is called for and you need it unbiased, if that doesn't bear up to scrutiny and it shows you that it's lapsed or it's misjudged, yeah, then you have to get rid of that right away. You can't let it just go on, because the more you let it go on, the more corrupt it becomes, and the more corrupt it becomes, the more people think they can get away with it as well. So yeah, I think good move by Willie Collum for once is getting that done with, and probably took a while legally to do it properly, but it's done and good. That should be a message sent to the other referees, and especially his VAR, that yeah, you're being watched as well. You know, you're also under review.
Well, Paddy, we've sat and we've praised the VAR review for. I know it doesn't solve every problem, of course it doesn't. But again, whether you like Willie Collum or whatever, I think he's tried to make some positive strides in terms of making the transparency or the accountability be there. I know it's after the event and the mistakes continually keep propping up, obviously, because you've constantly got these VAR review things here. But does this feel maybe like something like a watershed moment, or is it just a false dawn? It's somebody who has been, there's a storied history of some horrendous decisions where there's technology being involved or otherwise. But I think, we heard the audio, we heard it from the Hibs, and it was unforgivable. Nobody could have come back for that. Lazarus couldn't have come back for that. It was so damning in how much he was trying to force the point. What about this one? That looks out. How about that? What angle? I mean, that's out, isn't it? It was shocking, right? But does this, as Liam says, does this send a stark message where it maybe improves the officiating quality, if anything, just through sheer fear? Like, literally, rather than it being anything else, it's the fear, right? We actually can get sacked here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, listen, I think it's great. The VAR review, when we spoke about it before, gives you that sense of something's going to get done. He spoke about the possibility of extra training for these guys, and you were going, all right, okay, here we go. So they make a mistake and they get brought in and they go, right, look at this, that's blah, 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 blah. There's a rule book, it states this. And you're going, right, okay, that's fine. You can't train incompetency. And at the end of the day, we compared it to your jobs. Now, it doesn't matter what you do, what your job is. If you are shite at your job, you're going to get sacked. You're going to get disciplinaries. You're going to get these things. And in my position, I'm probably 3 strikes and you're out. And that for me would be a way to kind of look at this. You said about the audio, Steve. When it is, the audio is there, and he's basically telling the other VAR official what to say. Oh, look at that, that's out, isn't it? He's not saying to him, do you think that's out?
And in fairness to the boy there, to rewind back, sorry to jump in fairness to the boy there that was beside him, he continually says, we can't give that, we can't conclusively say. And the way I described it, he was badgered into just giving up, but he literally was as well just went, aye, right, okay.
Aye, no bother, pal, aye, it's out. You know what I mean? Just cut it off.
Aye.
So yeah, listen, for me it's positive signs. Other VAR officials going forward will be looking at that and going, right, wait a minute, if we don't go by the book here, this could be us. Nobody is invincible, do you know what I mean? So your Nick Walsh and your other guys as well, I know, highlight every one of them, but yeah, they're going to be out there and they're going to be looking at it going, right, wait a minute, we're going to get pulled for pretty much everything that we do here. And I think it's great. I think it's good going forward. and it's going to hopefully give us a better quality referee without any bias.
Well, do you prescribe to that, Liam? Do you think that it's going to have the desired, or at least we're hopeful, desired shockwaves through the refereeing brotherhood, if you want to call them that?
Aye, just for the fact alone that we've set up a precedent now that is where if you are looking at you are, let's say it's like he's no emotionally invested in it, or he's too emotionally invested in it. If I had to do VAR, I had my referees badge when I was young and all that. I used to referee kids and adult games and all that. And if you put me in that VAR, I'd be compromised as well. I'd be screaming and promoting to try and have my opinion override fact as well. Everything's like, everyone's got many points of view and lenses when you see it under different situations. We all know that. Some people see the glass half full, some people see the glass half empty. The ball's in, the ball's out. When you don't have the emotional stability because you're so invested in the outcome of maybe one team going, like subconsciously even, you will go out there and you will demand that people see things your way. Whereas because you're riding on the emotional aspect and not actually just looking at the factual aspect, which is what VAR is meant to do. The referee's the emotional pulse of the game. The VAR is meant to be the factual. It's like supposed to be non-binary. The referee has all those sort of decisions that can go either way. The VAR, no, was it in? Was it out? Did it hit him? Did he dive? That sort of thing. And if you have to form it based on an opinion, then you revert to the referee because you're just there to deliver the facts of what the camera saw, not your interpretation of what you thought the camera saw. So I think it's just going to help give some more clarity to what the role of VAR is. And now knowing that there's a precedent that if you don't uphold to any of those, you're out the door. Plenty of people in Scotland looking for work, and I'm sure there's plenty of people could go in there and give an honest assessment of what's in and out, understanding the rules of the game without having been an actual referee.
Yeah,
also,
sorry, there you go, mate.
No, go ahead.
No, I think the main thing is it could have been anybody. That is the thing. It could have been anybody, but I feel the fact that and look, the fact is he's in this position because he's own doing, right? So it maybe takes away a wee bit of what I'm about to say, but I think the fact that what we're getting is one of the main names, one of the mainstays, one of the sort of figurehead officials are the ones that are getting the axe here. It's not the random guy that's name occasionally pops up once every couple of games a season. You're like, who is that? They must be a new up-and-coming referee, one of the ones. The fact that it's somebody that's a household name for better or for worse, and the sort of they're embedded in the SFA, in the officiating scene, that's the one that are losing their job. I think that carries a real bit of weight. And like we are saying with Celtic players and folk getting complacent and getting comfortable in their seat, maybe it just will send the shockwaves through.
Fingers crossed, and like Liam had said there as well, you've got these guys in this position basically doing a job that anybody could do, in my opinion. You give them a rule book, you can sit there and read a rule book, and it comes down to interpretation. It comes down to human error. VAR was brought in to aid the referee, not to overrule the referee, not to basically tell him that something is wrong or whatever else. When the referee blows a whistle for a foul or doesn't blow a whistle for a foul, it's VAR to come in and go, right, wait a minute, we've checked that, there was contact on the ball before he went through the player, it's not a penalty. Or there was no contact. Do you know what I'm saying? It wasn't there to basically fucking overshadow the referee. It was there to help him. And that was
it's for clear and obvious. And if you are having to analyse a piece of footage for 3-4+ minutes, it's neither clear or obvious.
Yeah, exactly. That's it.
And that is it. But anyway, we've went just over an hour. We've covered a few things there. Obviously, we're scratching heads, but as we say, let's caveat it. We're in a good position, a great position. We are in touching distance. Let's get back on track, starting with a healthy result against Killie at the weekend, because as we say, in this crazy world of dropping points and Celtic Rangers being up, down, the league could be won because Rangers are playing Aberdeen, then I wouldn't put it past them to drop points. It's important that we do our bit of our side of the bargain here and take care of business. It was a slipped opportunity against St. Johnstone. That's fact. We should have punished them further. We didn't. Let's try and get that background, as we say. Plenty to discuss, plenty coming up. We'll obviously hopefully get a laugh at something happening tomorrow night. I don't know. I know it's not Celtic, but I'd love to see a absolute demoralising humping getting dished out there and send pick us up there. Give a wee bit of sort of ammunition for Aberdeen to go and take care of business as well. But it's been good. She says it's a summer holiday, so thanks. We've got healthy numbers here joining in for a random sort of 5:15 number midweek. So I appreciate every single one of you. More importantly, I appreciate Liam down below, bright and early, first thing in the morning out in Vancouver and Canada to join us and talk, mate. Always a warm welcome to yourself. Welcome anytime, mate. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Steve, and thanks everybody, and anybody watching. I'll see you Friday on the Friday Feeling. Thanks.
That's it. Friday, 9 o'clock. Check him out, Liam. Full bus, get him on there. But as he says, after you've done that, come back to Celtic World Order and listen to us talk about Celtic and all. Lots of good content out there. Paddy, I know that you'll be disappearing into the night come Friday, but will we get a wee cameo from the middle of the sea at some point?
I'll see how the Wi-Fi's holding up out there. I'll see if I can steal a connection for somebody and get myself
coins in it, wind it up and get it going.
The middle of the North Sea is calling me back, so I've had a nice 4 or 5 months off or whatever I've had off. I've had a good wee while, so I'm eager to go back.
But you've been dealing with a Wayne, and then you've also having to watch some stinking Celtic performances. So
it's been a hard 5 months, but listen, I've got to work, so I'll get myself out there, get a bit of normality back in my life, and we'll see what happens.
Absolutely. Well, hopefully we get a bit of Celtic normality back come the weekend, and obviously that comes in the form of a healthy result. We march on towards the treble. As always, if there's anything that breaks, anything that's interesting, we'll pop up and we'll be there. We'll be there to talk about that game anyway, win, lose or draw. Hopefully it's the first and not the remaining 2. So anyway, until the next time, take care of yourselves. Thanks for joining. And again, make sure you hit that subscribe. Costs you nothing, helps out the channel. See you later. Take care of yourself. And Paddy,
as always, hail, guys.
See you later. Bye-bye.